Yeah. Speaking of MVPs in this league, Broncos at the Chiefs. The Chiefs open up -13. They're up to 14 as Patrick Mahomes looks to take the Chiefs to 11-1. So who do you like in this game?
I can't believe you're already calling Drew Lock the MVP. That's a bold take.
Well, you saw what happened without him last week, right?
I know, right? Like Kendall Hinton had started every game, and then Drew Lock came in, he would definitely win MVP. But thankfully, that won't have to happen again. Though I will say, props to Kendall Hinton for handling that situation. That was not easy to do. So, yeah, that dude deserves a lot of credit. I will say, I'm actually on the Broncos in this one at +14. Look, on one hand, Patrick Mahomes on fire. Betting against him seems foolish, but on the other hand, the Broncos defense actually played well when these teams first met. People won't realize that because the score of that game was horrible, but Drew Lock just repeatedly turned the ball over. And I think the Chiefs had 2 defensive touchdowns in that one. So they just weren't able to win because of that. The Broncos, that is, they couldn't overcome that. And I think the Broncos are going to be motivated by what happened last week. They're going to look at that and be like, look what the NFL like screwed us over. Like, we had to play this 5th string quarterback, wide receiver from our practice squad who hadn't thrown a pass competitively since 2018 at Wake Forest. Like, I mean, it was ridiculous that they had to do that. And, you know, it is what it is. And teams have had to play without players this season, but like nothing like that. So I think that's going to make Vic Fangio and the guys be like, hey, we got to show well this week and just show like, hey, people who saw us play last week, like you knew what we were going through, but don't think that we're just a bad team anyway. Like we could have made that game against the Saints competitive. So I think that they'll be competitive against the Chiefs. I don't think they're going to win, but as good as the Chiefs are recently, they haven't been winning by much. They've won their last 3 games by 9 points combined. That was against the Bucs, the Raiders, and the Panthers. So I don't think that the Broncos are quite as good as those teams, but you know, if you're giving me 14 points on a Broncos team that I don't think is terrible, I don't think they're good, but I don't think they're terrible, I'll take that. I'm going to watch the injury report in this one before I bet it because I know they've been missing a lot of defensive linemen specifically, but with them getting their quarterbacks back, I like this line, so I'll probably be on it for 2 units unless there's a surprise in the injury report.
Yeah, so I had Denver, the last time these teams played in Week 7, and my thesis behind that pick was I thought that with the Chiefs missing 2 offensive linemen, I thought Denver would be able to win in the trenches and really have Patrick Mahomes struggle. And Mahomes actually had his worst game of the year. He only had 200 yards and a touchdown. And yet they got blown out because of like what you said, the 2 touchdowns. It was a 10-6 game, and Denver was driving. So they were down 10-6. They were at midfield. Then Drew Lock throws a pick 6. So 17-6. The next time Denver kicks it away, or I think they punted it, or I forget what happened, but they kicked it away. Then Kansas City scored a special teams touchdown. Suddenly it was like 24-9. And then the Chiefs get another defensive score like later in the game. So like that's how that game went. It was an even game before that. Like Denver was doing a great job on Mahomes, and Denver was running the ball like pretty well. And suddenly, because of that huge deficit, they couldn't run anymore. So I think if they had better luck this time with the offensive touchdowns or the defensive touchdowns and special teams touchdowns for the Chiefs, they should be able to hang around and like come within 2 touchdowns. The Chiefs still have those 2 missing offensive linemen, so I think Denver matches up well, like on that side of the ball, and I think Denver should be able to move the chains against the Chiefs, who haven't really played that well defensively recently. So I'm right there with you on the Broncos here. I'm just like you're braver than I am. I don't know if I can bet on Drew Lock, but I do think Denver is the right side.
Yeah, no, and I might be a little bit crazy for saying 2 units because, like, part of me is terrified to bet against Patrick Mahomes with how he's playing. But I'm also kind of on the I want Aaron Rodgers to win MVP thing. So I'm like, hey, maybe this will be the game where Patrick Mahomes doesn't look that great. So, and I love betting against double-digit lines, and when it's like 2 touchdown lines, I will gladly take some action on it. So I guess I got 1 or 2 units, but we might be back here next week, me being like, man, I can't believe I bet against Patrick Mahomes. Like, who let me do that? Like, I have that like every week though.
Yeah, that's it always feels you always feel the dumbest person in the world when you're like, I'm gonna take Drew Lock against Patrick Mahomes. Let's see what happens now. Like And yeah, you feel really dumb when Mahomes lights up the scoreboard and gets 5 touchdowns and 400 yards, and you're like, oh my god, like the Broncos lost 49-10. What a dumb play that was. But I do think the Denver is the right side here. And I will say that, like, I don't know if the motivation is going to be here for the Chiefs. Like they just had 2 big wins. Like the Raiders are the closest team to them in the division. They won in Vegas, and then the next game they beat the Buccaneers on the road as well. So like they crushed Denver earlier in the year. So you have to wonder like where the motivation is going to be. I feel like the Chiefs will probably take them for granted and kind of like sneak out like a 7 or 10 point win.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me, especially if they look back and are like, oh yeah, they got crushed by the Saints. They're good and don't really pay attention to what else happened.
Yeah. How are you guys doing in the contest? So our combined entry is like 260th in the contest. Yeah, I'm tied for 5th in the gold. So I'm pretty close. I think I'm 2.5 behind the leader, I think. So kind of, pretty close. I will say the leader in the regular contest is 3 points ahead of second place. So it's gonna be pretty tough to catch that guy. But I think second place is still alive for me in the regular contest, but need some good weeks to close out the year. All right. So we have